there, and welcome back to the amazing collection unboxing. We are on box number 93. This will be my last box of 2019. Can you believe it's almost a new decade? And I chose a box. It's a mystery box. It just says Breyer mixed. So let's find out what's in here. It's a lot of models. All right, first we have an action stock horse foal. Trip down memory lane. These guys were introduced sometime in the 80s with the stock horse stallion mare and the standing stock horse foal. This is the Breyer version of a bay pinto from the 80s. No mapping, just a general masked pinto spray. Nice color. I like buckskin, so he looks really nice to me. He's in excellent condition. I do like the action stock horse foal, but probably because he was one of my first models. So he's a cutie. I think he was a regular run. Back then they ran for a long time, so at least 5 or 6 years. Next we have another action stock horse foal. This guy's got a halter on. This is in red roan, which is the splatter dapple. So they just took the red paint and kind of took a paintbrush and splattered it on. This was our version of a leopard Appaloosa back in the days. It's a nice halter. I don't know if it's Breyer or not, or if it's homemade. I'll have to look at it a little closer. But it fits him pretty well, and it's got a nice lead rope, and it looks cute with him. He is, again, another regular run, so he was made for quite a few years. Next we have, this is the Phantom Wings mold. I think this guy was called Rough Diamond. So when the mold was introduced in the 80s, it was introduced as Phantom Wings, who is one of Misty's foals. Misty is Chincoteague. And so the mold name is Phantom Wings, even though the horse in this color is called, I think, Rough Diamond. He's in just a nice chestnut, minimal kind of wings pinto. This might even be the same color, or the same pattern as the Phantom Wings. But Phantom Wings was in Palomino. This is a chestnutty color. Again, nice color, nice condition, so maybe this will be a box of foals. Not a foal, but another small mold. This is the traditional Shetland pony in a interesting version of a dappled gray. So he's almost solid white over his top line, but then his belly is dappled gray. It's a nice color, but I guess you'd have to set him up on a shelf so that you could see the effect, because if you set him down on a shelf, he just looks like a white Shetland pony. This guy was from, maybe he was a special run, one of the Christmassy ones. But I don't think JCPenney, maybe Sears. Nice condition, and again, it's a pretty interesting color for them. They did dapple the tail because they didn't have much control over their paint back in those days, but he's a cute guy. Then we have a Saddlebred weanling. This is, oh Lord, that's testing me. I think he was a limited edition maybe, or he wasn't a commemorative edition. I think that was Raven. Let's look. Nope, no number. Maybe he was a special run, because I think there was 2 Saddlebred weanlings that were fairly similar in color. Wow, testing my knowledge and my remembrance from those days. Now this guy did have a mold change from his original liver chestnut to his reincarnation, so he was a staple through much of the 70s and 80s in liver chestnut with lots of variations. Then he was withdrawn. They said there was some problems with the mold. They retooled the mold, and the only thing that was really significant was they disconnected the tail from his butt. So on the original Saddlebred weanling, the tail was connected. The new version, it is not. It is only coming out from the body, and then it hangs free. So this is the Palomino Saddlebred weanling that I'm completely blanking on, even though I'm pretty sure I had one in my collection for quite some time. This is the Haflinger mold. I think this was another Christmassy special run. Again, probably Sears, because if I'm not totally familiar with them, I got a lot of the JCPenney ones. I said a couple weeks ago we had a JCPenney outlet in my town, so I think this might have been a Sears, although it could have been one of the years that the models didn't come to my town. Super dark chestnut with just a little bit of shading up through his haunches and his butt and on his face. It's a cute color for him. I'm not a big fan of the super dark molds models because I do like to see, especially with him, with his fun mane and tail, I like to see a little bit of the mold detail, but he's a cutie. Next, we have a Sherman Morgan. This guy is in black. Darn, this is the era that I was collecting. You'd think I'd remember these things. He was a Sherman Morgan in black with 3 white socks. So there you go. This guy also got retooled, his mold, whether it was due to true mold flaws or whether it was due to simply the fact that his tail was really ugly. His tail again got retooled like that Saddlebred weanling, and I can't remember, I have one of the new ones, but it's a little nicer. It's still not beautiful, but it's nicer than this kind of tea kettle handle tail that he has. And it's a black Sherman Morgan. Don't judge me. Next we have a Fury Prancer. We have lots of Fury Prancers. This collector did love his Fury Prancers. And he is in the black and white pinto with the western saddle, although his reins have gotten all confused over the years. So the Fury Prancer was introduced mid-50s, 54, 55, 56. Made for a decent number of years, although he was discontinued, I think, into the mid-60s, so he didn't go quite as far as a lot of the molds from that era. But still, back then, most of the molds would be produced for long periods of time in the 50s and 60s. So the black and white pinto color you could get with a rider, but you could also get it without a rider. I think most of the Fury Prancers you could choose if you were the purchaser, meaning the commercial person, the business that was selling them. You could choose if they had a western saddle or an English saddle. You could choose, obviously then it costs more money if you chose the ones with the riders, so many businesses just chose the horse without the rider. He's in good condition. It looks like his back left leg is really seriously starting to tip out a little bit, but a little bit of heat would cure that. He's got a few light rubs, but for his age, he's in really nice condition, and the saddle is intact. The tapaderos aren't broken, the cinch is intact, and that color is really nice on that mold. Another Fury Prancer. This guy is in solid white with the western saddle, and he has gold mane and tail. These are the original reins to them, although technically they may or may not be original, because many times the saddle and bridle would get lost over the years, and then if a collector bought it, you could buy then maybe a horse that was broken or in bad condition and change the saddle out. So you can't guarantee, even though they are of that era, that they actually came from these models. This guy's not in quite as nice a shape. He's got quite a few rubs all over his body, but the saddle is intact. It does have its tapaderos and its cinch. He does have his reins, and they're very old. I mean, I don't want to do the math, but the 1950s was a very long time ago. Oh goodness, another Fury Prancer. So this guy is the, I'll have to take a look, black Fury Prancer with white stockings and a white blaze. This guy you do have to pay attention to if you're a collector, because they issued these in solid black and plum black, where it was kind of a brownish plastic. The alabaster and the black are both not painted. That's the color of the plastic that they were molded in. And so this guy can be a plum, but the light's not perfect, but I'm thinking this is a true black Fury Prancer. He doesn't have any kind of saddle, but he does have his reins. He's in decent shape for his age. And last but not least, We have, surprise, another Fury Prancer. This guy is the Palomino Pinto with the Indian blanket instead of a saddle, and it's in good condition. He has his reins. He is in nice shape. He does have quite a few rubs through his paint, but his white is in good condition. He looks like he might be starting to have maybe a little bit of a seam split. He's thinking about it. And interestingly, these guys have the same pinto masking pattern, it looks to me. So they would just take one of them out and then they would spray them with the Palomino chestnut color, or they spray them with the black and white pinto color, but they'd use the same mask on them. So interesting box. We go through a lot of decades from the 50s up through the 80s. You can see that this collector loved his Fury Prancers. I'll have to count them up at the end of the boxes and see how many I had. It was a fun box. Hope you enjoyed. We'll find out. I have a few boxes left, so join me and see what I come up with next week. Thank you.